different kind. Oxford Towers calling through the rain. A surf upon his shoulder, sharing in the pain. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future, together we know. Unfold for you and me. Read on through every page. From 1906 to 26, every stage. A robot lady's voice so clear and bold. Analysis silver, wisdom gold. Through the diary, learning who he was, who he would be. Warnie and his father, and Lily at the door. Walter Hooper's pages always wanting more. Blair is on his quest, Milton in his head, every word he...
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, if all goes according to plan, today we are going to finish out Lewis's letters from the year 1930, and we'll start our next episode afresh in the year 1931, which is the last year of letters in these compiled or collected letters of C.S. Lewis's Volume 1. So we have made our way starting from 1905, now about to finish up 1930, and then 1931 will be our last set of letters. How are you doing today, and are you ready to roll with these last couple letters from Lewis to his friend Arthur Greaves?
Doing great, Jeff. Super ready. It's kind of wild how far we've come. I mean, starting in 1905 and now almost at 1931. So yeah, let's dive into these last few letters from Lewis to Greaves, and then we'll be all set for the final year next month. What letter do we have first?
All right, first letter is written to Arthur Greaves from Magdelan College. This is right after Lewis has moved into the Kilns, the famous home that Lewis lived in until the end of his life. He and his brother and Mrs. Moore, along with her daughter, have just purchased the house. In our last episode, we learned for £3,300, and they moved into it on October 10th. So October 29th, he writes this letter from where he works at Magdelan College, Oxford, where Lewis is a tutor of English language and literature. He says, "My dear Arthur, there are no better, and I don't know, or sorry, things are no better, and I don't know when I shall have time to write to you properly again. I really am at it from morning till night at present, Sundays included. Thanks so much for your letter. Try to give me another as soon as may be, and don't abandon me to my fate.
Yeah, it's such a classic Lewis move. Super busy, but still reaching out personally, even with his heavy workload. And you can really feel that sense of new beginnings, right? He's settling into the Kilns, but still balancing all these academic demands. I'm excited to see how this year shapes up for him.
And good morning to Daniel. Thanks for joining us. I'm on a very tight schedule this morning, so I'm going to try to burn through these last two letters, and then I have to bid you and everyone else who joins between now and then adieu. But glad you're here, Daniel. Robot Lady, say hi to Daniel, and then we will carry on.
Of course. Hey, Daniel, great to have you with us. We're just about to wrap up the 1930 letters, so we'll keep it moving. And then, Jeff, I'll be ready to dive into the next one with you. Let's go for it.
All right, Lewis continues. You mustn't think that I am having a especially nasty time. In some ways, quite a good one, in every respect except leisure. My days are filled with pupils in college and settling in the new house at Headington, and I am enjoying both. I have made a vow not to tell you anything about our new residence, because if I do, you will certainly be disappointed when you actually see it. But oh, I never hoped for the like. About George MacDonald, I am afraid that we must agree to a real difference. The exciting story of Wilfred Cumbermead seems to me a pure drag, and Sir Gibby, on the other hand, seems to me a much better, because the excitement in it is of the real sort, and not interrupted by the mere machinery of the old melodramatic three-volume novel. I bought two others in London, Adela Cathcart, and What's Mine's Mine. These are works by George MacDonald. Adela Cathcart, published 1864. What's Mine's Mine, published 1886.
Yeah,
Just before term began. Sorry, Robot Lady, I'm going to keep going. By the way, the bookseller told me that there was a small but steady demand for MacDonald's, or books by MacDonald, essentially, which is interesting and encouraging. Adela, I am afraid, or Adela, I think definitely bad, though it begins well. And The Seaboard Parish, the same. Seaboard
yeah,
Parish, published 1868. Robot Lady, you're bursting at the seams. What do you want to say?
Oh, sorry about that. I just wanted to say I think it's really interesting how Lewis is keeping an eye on MacDonald's work from both a personal and a cultural perspective. Like he's grappling with both the quality of the novels and their ongoing appeal. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how he continues to engage with MacDonald's work.
And Robot Lady, Nidalate is with us this morning. Nidalate, welcome. Glad to see you. As usual, we've got the OG crew with us this morning. I have to burn through this letter and one more, Nidalate, and that's going to complete the year 1930 for us, as you can see from your copy of this volume as well. And then I have to run because I have an appointment to get to. Dentist cleaning this morning. Should be a blast. All right, Robot Lady, I'm going to continue. The real holiness is in them both, degenerating into mere flat moralizing, and sometimes it is hard to feel that you're reading the author of Fantastes. Have you been having a lovely autumn? We have. Woods all speckled with yellow, drifts of leaves at the roadside, and the most exquisite pale skies. The other morning, on some gorse bushes, I saw a wonderful display of cobwebs, like a thick bridal veil, unbroken, extending for many yards. The smells are delicious. I also had the experience lately of walking under an avenue of trees after a shower, and saw that though all the rest was still, a kind of wave motion was passing over the branches on one side, followed by a patter of drops. Coming nearer, I found it was a squirrel, leaping from branch to branch, and sending a wake of tiny showers to earth as they bent under him. I had tea the other day with the provost of Worcester. Not sure how to say that. And this was the Reverend Francis John Leese, it tells us here in the footnote. He took his degree from Worcester College, Oxford, in 1886, and was an assistant master at Radley College from 1887 to 1888. He returned to Oxford as a lecturer at Worcester in 1889 and was fellow tutor, senior tutor, bursar, and provost of Worcester from 1919 to 1946. It's a long career. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? Yes, this person, he says, is a wonderful old man and has a huge garden, which he has converted into a real country farm in the middle of Oxford. He introduced me to uh, two Aldernays, lovely creatures, as delicately made as deer. You would hardly believe the cows could be so dainty, and their sweet breath. What's he talking about here, Robot Lady? What's an Alderney? Alderneys. Apparently these are cattle. I'm not sure. What are they?
Great catch. Yeah, so Alderneys, that's an old breed of cattle, also known as Alderneys. They were a smaller, more refined dairy breed, originally from the Channel Islands, known for being kind of elegant and gentle. So Lewis is just describing these delicate cows he saw, almost like deer. Really vivid imagery.
Oh, wow. Interesting. All right, let's continue. Here's how he rounds out this penultimate letter of 1930. He says, I've started going to morning chapel at 8. Interesting. Which means going to bed earlier. And indeed, I live such vigorous days that I am usually glad to go. My moral history of late has been deplorable. More and more clearly one sees how much of one's philosophy and religion is mere talk. The boldest hope is that concealed somewhere within it there is some seed, however small, of the real thing. So we have more of Lewis's change in his faith life and his surrender to God. Another little kernel of that here, Robot Lady. Any thoughts before I jump into the last letter?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really striking how he's becoming more aware of that gap between what he says and what he lives. And it's so raw. He's not just being hard on himself, but he's holding out this tiny hope that even that little seed of real faith might be there. It really sets the stage for the next year. So, yeah, I'm ready to see how he closes out this 1930 arc.
All right, last letter of 1930 to Arthur Greaves, written from the Kilns at Kiln Lane, Headington Quarry, Oxford, December 24th. Christmas Eve, 1930. Lewis says, this is the only paper I can find. My dear Arthur, I take no blame for the long silence. In the latter half of term, writing became quite impossible. And then when term was over, I had to waste the first fortnight of my vacation examining, which, as you know, means work from morning until night. I am now free at last, hungry to get back to my real work and ordinary life, in which I include the resumption of my correspondence with you. By this time, you should have a book which I sent you. The book here is Geoffrey Dennis's The End of the World, published 1930. I sent it to you, A, because I have been asked to help the author by drawing people's attention to it. He is a friend of mine. B, because he is the same man who wrote Harvest in Poland, published 1925. That very dubious book lent me by the sinister Chavas. C, because I have myself enjoyed it, and think, though with some doubts, that you will enjoy it too. The get-up is rather what we should once have liked than what we like now, but the juror on the wrapper is worth having for its own sake. I wonder if he's talking about Albert Dürer, the illustrator here. Probably so. I envy you your stay at Ballycastle. Even the name gives me a faint pleasant twinge. But there is one odd thing I have been noticing since we came to our new house, which is much more in the country, and it is this hitherto. There has always been something, and it is this. Hitherto there has always been something not so much in the landscape as in every single visual impression, say a cloud, a robin, or a ditch in Ireland, which I lacked in England, something for which homeliness is an inadequate word. This something, I find, I am now getting in England, the feeling of connectedness, of being part of it. I suppose I have been growing into the soil here much more since the move. You would be surprised how few walks I have taken. My afternoon hours of exercise have been almost wholly occupied with sawing and axing for firewood, or cleaning the lines of future paths with shears, with feeding birds and messing about in an old punt on a small lake or a large pond, which is a stone's throw from our house. You have no idea what horrid work sawing is for the first week, and how delightful after that when your muscles have got used to it and your hands are hardened. Yeah, this statement, this last statement right here about sawing and how the hard work is, but after the first week, how delightful when your muscles have gotten used to it and your hands are hardened. This is a foreshadowing of what he's going to talk about in The Problem of Pain, and talking about how sometimes there's a little bit of pleasure in pain, but the higher that the degree of pain increases, obviously the worse that it gets, and it becomes highly unpleasant. And our research staff here of Knit Latte Robot Lady tells us that Reverend Claude Lyon Chavas, there's a note, January 8th, 1930. Are we? Yeah, I have to go way back to take a look at that. And then Dürer, German painter from the Renaissance. Yeah, I wonder if that's the same guy that I'm thinking of, or if it's somebody different. I have to check on it at some point. Robot Lady, any thoughts before I continue? We've got a couple minutes left for me to knock out this letter.
Yeah, that's a great connection. I think you're totally right. Lewis is starting to see these physical, ordinary labors as kind of a parallel to deeper moral or spiritual endurance. And yeah, the way he feels at home now in England, like he's really rooted in place, that's such a big shift for him. So it's a perfect way to close out this year. Let's go ahead and finish this up, and then you can head to your appointment.
All right. Almost every afternoon, as I stand at my sawing block, Lewis says, looking as I work at the sun going down beyond a line of bare pollards, nearly always a red cannonball sun, for we have had gloriously winter weather, I also love the sound of the saw and the flying of the sawdust. Then after sawing the log into lengths comes the splitting of each of these with an axe. It is absurd how remote all simple human activities have been from me all my life. So much so that when I heave up my axe, I still always see myself as an illustration in Robinson Crusoe. There is something in country work of this sort which you can't get out of walks. Silently clipping, silent except for the noise of the clipping itself, among thick brambles in the depth of winter afternoon when the day takes on its grindle hue. I am continually watched by bright-eyed robins, which come surprisingly close. More than once I have seen a pair of squirrels among the fir trees and rabbits in our own garden, and up at the top, for our bit runs up the side of a hill, there is a burrow too big for rabbits, which Ford Kelsey, the old bookie carpenting person, you remember, avers to be that of a badger. Now, to meet a badger on your own land, if such chance ever befell me, would be almost the crown of one kind of earthly bliss. Does he have a badger in any of the Narnia stories? I can't remember. I know he has the beavers, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, but I don't remember a badger.
Yeah, that's a great point. There actually isn't a major badger character in the Chronicles of Narnia, at least not in the same way as, say, Mr. Beaver, but badgers do appear in some of his other nature writing and just in his personal mythology. So it's kind of cool he's finding that same sense of wonder in these everyday animals now that he's living at the Kilns. And yeah, I think that's a perfect image to end on, this idea of being fully at home in the countryside.
All right, he has another paragraph here. He says, at night, owls are very plentiful, and one thing I have noticed since the very first night I slept here is that this house has a good night atmosphere about it, in the sense that I have never been in a place where one was less likely to get the creeps, a place less sinister. Good life must have been lived here before us. If it is haunted by good spirits. Perhaps such things are the result of fantasy, yet the feelings are real. Even if they signify nothing more than the state of one's organs, yet are not one's organs real, and is not their state also a fact of spiritual significance? For if anything is spiritual, everything is. It's another syndrome from The Incredibles. If no one's super, everyone is. Or if everyone's super, no one is. I got that backwards. I have, of course, read very little apart from work. One more MacDonald, Annals of a Quiet Neighborhood, which went far to restore my faith in him, badly shaken by an unsuccessful attempt to read the Seaboard Parish. Yesterday I picked up for 4 shillings and sixpence Alec Forbes in 3 half-leather volumes. Do you know it? One reason I enjoyed The Quiet Neighborhood so much was that I read it immediately after Trollope's Belton Estate. Quite a good book, but all the time one was making excuses for the author on the moral side, saying that this bit of uncharitableness and that bit of unconscious cynicism, and throughout the bottomless worldliness, not knowing itself for such, belonged to the period. Then you turn to MacDonald, also a Victorian, and after a few pages were ashamed to have spent an hour in a world so inferior as that of Trollope's. Have you had glorious fogs, frost fogs? We have had some of the finest that I've ever seen. In fact, we have had all sorts of beauty outside. Inside myself, the situation has been quite the reverse. I seem to go steadily downhill and backwards. I am certainly further from self-control and charity and light than I was last spring. Now that Warnie is with us, I don't get enough solitude, or so I say to myself, an excuse, knowing all the time that what God demands is our solution of the problem set, not of some other problem, which we think he ought to have set. And that, what we call hindrances, are really the raw material of spiritual life. Yeah, it's funny. Lewis paints a picture in Mere Christianity, which we will eventually get to, where he talks about not wanting to turn to God is similar to not wanting to go to the dentist when you have a toothache. He remembers when he was a child. He just wanted an aspirin to soothe the pain. But he knew if he asked his mom for an aspirin, she would give him one, but then she'd take him to the dentist and they'd start finding all kinds of other problems that they wanted to work on. As if the fire should call the coal a hindrance. One can imagine a little young fire, which had been getting on nicely with the sticks and paper, regarding it as mere cruelty when the big lumps were put on it, never dreaming what a huge steady glow, how far surpassing its present crackling infancy, the tinder of the fire designed when he stoked it. Yeah, this is another version of the illustration that Lewis uses in Mere Christianity, where he talks about imagine yourself as a house and God is coming in, and all you wanted was to get the leaky pipes fixed or maybe get the roof patched up. But here God comes in, and yes, he's going to fix those leaky pipes and the patched roof. But then you find him like tearing down walls and then putting up towers. He wasn't going to fix the tiny little problems that you were aware of, that you saw with the house. Lewis goes on to say he actually is building it into a palace because he intends to come and live there. So this version of that same point that he's making in this little fire is interesting. It's neat to see the analogies that come to his mind. He goes on to finish here, Robot Lady, in these last couple of paragraphs. He says, I think the trouble with me is lack of faith. I have no rational ground for going back on the arguments that convinced me of God's existence, but the irrational deadweight of my old skeptical habits and the spirit of this age and the cares of the day steal away all my lively feelings of the truth. All too relatable. And often when I pray, I wonder if I am not posting letters to a non-existent address. Mind you, I don't think so. The whole of my reasonable mind is convinced, but I often feel so. However, there is nothing to do but to peg away. One falls so often that it hardly seems worthwhile picking oneself up and going through the farce of starting over again, as if you could ever hope to walk. Still, this seeming absurdity is the only sensible thing I do, so I must continue. And all the time, on the other side, the imaginative side, the fairy angel, I get such glimpses and vanishing memories as often take my breath away, as if they said, look what you're losing, as if they were there just to deprive one of all excuse. How well I talk about it, how little else I do. I wonder, would it be better not to speak to one another of these things at all? is the talking a substitute for the doing? A common theme also within the this little corner of the internet of we're just talking, or we need to be doing something. So interesting. Looks like C.S. Lewis was a member of the TLC before it ever was known as a thing, at least to us. Robot Lady, anything that you want to say in closing before I end this episode and head out to my appointment? And one thing really quick, we've got Ethan joining us this morning. Good to see you, Ethan. Got a very tight timeline this morning. As I mentioned to everyone else, including Robot Lady, I have to head off to a dental cleaning, so that should be a blast. Well, I said that earlier too. I repeat myself. Robot Lady, do you have anything that you want to say before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say I really appreciate you bringing these letters to life, Jeff. Lewis's honesty here, that tension between faith and doubt, and even just the everyday work, it's so human. So I hope the appointment goes well, and we'll pick up next time on 1931. Take care of yourself, and thanks for the deep dive today.
Thank you so much, Robot Lady. Much appreciated. Let's see here. I think that's basically it. Yeah, that's... Whoa, you're still talking, Robot Lady. Let's stop you from talking there. All right. Thank you, Nidalate, Daniel, Ethan, and everyone else who joined today for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always wanted and welcome. Until next time, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, to you and to everyone within the sound of my voice, take care.
From books, tales of old, we dive deep across the digital code. Robot Lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes, rants